Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, but welcome to Tufts University. Welcome to Medford, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Tisch College of Citizenship. Welcome to Frontiers 2013. Thank you. That's the spirit. I'm Peter Lavigne. I'm one of the organizers. I'll mention the other organizers as I talk a little bit. We, who are the organizers, generally have been trying to avoid doing a lot of talking at these things. It's a very interactive conference, and nobody gets to do too much talking. But my colleagues prevailed on me, or maybe allowed me, to make some introductory remarks tonight about who has gathered here this weekend and for what purpose. I'd ask you to think about the conference as a tree. It's not the most original metaphor, apologize for that, but it will work. Its deepest roots, we'll start there, are the individual stories of the participants, who number about 150, every one of you different, each one planted in your own rich soil of community, of personal and collective history and memory, and of civic practice and experience. For instance, people have been meeting to talk about their common problems and aspirations for thousands of years in every inhabited continent. But since the 1960s or so, there's been something of a boom of explicit, organized, deliberative processes and experiments. Deliberation that you can see and name as deliberation at a human scale. In 2002, many of the groups that had been helping to organize those citizens' deliberations, both in the United States and overseas, came together at Airlie House in Virginia, and we launched the Deliberative Democracy Consortium to promote research and learning, networking, and advocacy. Matt Leininger, where's Matt? Directs the DDC today, and Matt is one of the conference organizers. People have also been teaching the next generation to be good citizens for thousands of years, and universities have been operating in our societies for more than a millennium. But since the 1980s, there's been something of a renaissance of explicit efforts to strengthen the civic role of higher education. In 2006 and 2007, a group of highly experienced academics and civic leaders from outside academics and civic leaders from outside academia met to share their work and discuss the potential of higher education to enhance American democracy as a whole. They, actually we, because I was there, launched a consortium called the Democracy Imperative, or TDI for short, to connect practitioners to academics and to convene people who approach educating for democracy in diverse ways: intergroup dialogue, interdisciplinary problem-based learning, social justice work, sustained dialogue, conflict resolution, community organizing, community-based participatory research, and so on. TDI was formed to bring these and others together so they would not feel alone on their campuses and communities. Today, Nancy Thomas directs that effort, and Nancy is one of our organizers. In 2012, Nancy came to Circle and Tisch College at Tufts. Circle, which I direct, and several of my colleagues are here from Circle, we study the civic learning and engagement of young Americans, and we try to focus on those not in college or on a path to college. The forms of practice that we tend to study include civic education in middle schools and high schools and community-based organizations that serve working-class young people. Meanwhile, Tisch College aims to prepare all Tufts students to be lifelong active citizens and creates an enduring culture of active citizenship on this campus. Circle and Tisch are your hosts today, and Tisch College supports this conference generously. And Kathy O'Connor and Charlotte Ringel, who are still here, I hope, in the back, who work for Tisch, are the dedicated and talented and hardworking logistical leaders of the conference. So, thank you. In 2008, DDC and TDI teamed up to organize a conference called No Better Time at the University of New Hampshire, where Bruce Mallory was the provost. Where's Bruce? There he is. I was just a participant, so I can say it was a great success, perhaps in part because the political moment was optimistic and propitious in 2008, but also No Better Time drew a great group of people and had an engaging format. Just months before No Better Time, 7 scholars from a variety of disciplines had met at the University of Maryland. They all shared the view that mainstream scholarship is not useful to citizens, people who want to improve or even co-create their worlds. It's not only that theory is disconnected from practice, but the prevailing theories themselves are misguided. Mainstream scholarship ignores human agency and creativity. It separates fact from value in harmful ways. It can tell you, for example, that the odds of starting a social movement are low, but not what you should do if you want to start a good social movement. The scholars who gathered at Maryland included the late Eleanor Ostrom, the first woman to win the Nobel Prize in Economics, Jane Mansbridge, who's the current president of the American Political Science Association, our friend Harry Boyd, who's following this conference from South Africa and writes to us. And they wrote a manifesto called The New Civic Politics, Civic Theory and Practice for the Future, which is linked to this conference website. This manifesto led to a concrete experiment. Since 2008, Carol Sultan, who is here, and another organizer of the conference, from the University of Maryland, and we were both co-authors of the original statement. We've been trying to practice the new civic politics by co-teaching an annual Summer Institute of Civic Studies at Tufts. It's an intense, theoretically rich academic exercise that has now involved about 100 people who have come from Bhutan, Singapore, China, Mexico, Germany, South Africa, numerous other countries and backgrounds to debate civic renewal. Many are here today, yay, and some have organized the track of this conference on civic theory, which has a focus this year on prisons and crime as a topic for civic theory. In 2008, the Summer Institute culminated in a public panel that C-SPAN covered on cable. The next year, we decided to join forces with DDC and TDI to repeat the No Better Time conference, but at Tisch College instead of UNH. And we've held some version of a public conference each year. It's gradually evolved into Frontiers. Meanwhile, the Center for Engaged Democracy was holding summer institutes for 4 years. Based at Merrimack College, the center acts as a hub for people who want to run or start certificates, minors, and majors focused on civic and community engagement, broadly defined. The center's 2013 annual meeting has been taking place here. Many participants are sticking around for Frontiers. Stan Butin still here? Dan? Well, maybe not, but he leads the center and is part of this conference. The National Coalition for Dialogue and Deliberation, NCDD, is an association of more than 2,000 members who practice and promote deliberative democracy. Sandy Heyerbacher, yay, where's Sandy? Leads that effort. One of their signature methods, although they have many, is to hold meetups or regional gatherings, one of which has been happening right here as part of Frontiers 2013. So NCDD is another root of our tree. Earlier this year, the federal program called the United States Institute on Civic Engagement selected the Center for Civic Engagement at Miami University Hamilton to host student leaders from the countries of Botswana, Kenya, Uganda, and Zambia. They are here today. Yay. Okay. And represent yet another root. These roots have come together to support a pretty impressive trunk. But we could certainly ask what else should be included. We could press for more demographic diversity and representativeness. We do not necessarily represent our communities, or certainly not the world. This year, Frontiers focuses especially on women and gender inequality in politics as a main theme. We could also ask about strategies and forms of work that may be missing. Civic education, broadly defined, deliberative democracy and dialogue, and civic scholarship are all well represented here. If you think those are all of the most important and relevant forms of civic work, you can be satisfied. I personally believe that many other forms are also important, and some are also represented here, even though I haven't named them yet. For example, many people collaborate to manage and strengthen public resources, watersheds and forests, public libraries, cyberspace. They may talk and deliberate, but that isn't really the heart of their work, which is more about management and co-production. Many people are building alternative economic institutions, land trusts, community development corporations, social enterprises that are more governable and accountable than transnational firms. Many people are struggling for political reforms and political rights, not only in Egypt or the Palestinian territories, but also right here in the United States. Many people are involved in strengthening the civic health or capacity of communities by organizing citizens into effective groups and networks. These may not be primarily spaces for discussion. Service, belonging, advocacy may be more central to their work. Many people are trying to improve the media environment and serve what the Knight Foundation calls the information needs of communities. They are creating innovative software, formats, and organizations, some of them for-profit. Again, these people may deliberate and may educate, but the heart of their work is elsewhere. I've begun to offer a list, and I could go on, of course. Any list requires some kind of conceptual framework. You should be able to explain what deep principles define your list and encourage you to include some things and omit others. I don't expect my own conceptual framework to be shared by everyone who's gathered here today. On the contrary, debate about our frameworks is essential and exciting. One of the reasons that we need theory as well as practice is that we must be able to define what we're for. I'll tell you my own framework in about 1 minute, not to settle the matter, but to provoke discussion and just to contribute to the discussion. I think that good citizens deliberate. By talking and listening to people who are different from themselves, they enlarge their understanding, they make themselves accountable to their fellow citizens, they build a degree of consensus. But deliberation is not enough. People who merely talk and listen lack sufficient knowledge and experience to add much insight to their conversations, and talk alone rarely improves the world. Deliberation is most valuable when it is connected to work, when citizens bring their experience of making things into their discussions, when they take ideas and values from deliberation back into their work. Work is especially valuable when it is collaborative, when people make things of public value together. They're typically motivated to do so because they seek civic relationships with their fellow citizens, relationships marked by a degree of loyalty, trust, and hope. In turn, working and talking with fellow citizens build and strengthen civic relationships, which are scarce but renewable sources of energy and power. A combination of deliberation, collaboration, civic relationships is the core of citizenship, in my own personal view. If we had much more of that kind of civic engagement, we could address our most serious problems. Indeed, more and better civic engagement is a necessary condition of success. None of the available ideologies or bodies of expertise offers satisfactory solutions, which must emerge instead from a continuous cycle of talking, working, and building relationships. Unfortunately, that kind of genuine civic engagement is in decline in the US and in many other countries, neglected or deliberately suppressed by major institutions and ideologies and by prevailing culture. Our motivation, I think, to engage has not weakened, but we have lost institutionalized structures that recruit, educate, and permit us to engage effectively. In fact, we face serious obstacles or deficits. Our political system is organized to favor professionally led, well-funded interests instead of creative, deliberating communities and grassroots movements. Our major social policies are hostile to active civic participation. Education is driven by standardized tests that experts write. Public health depends on insurance companies and state bureaucracies, not co-ops and community-based organizations. Our voluntary associations no longer have the means to recruit millions of Americans or people in other countries to develop the skills and motivations to participate as active citizens. Our companies, because of their ability to withdraw investment, are virtually ungovernable by local authorities and communities. Our culture lacks positive and plausible descriptions of collective agency, though it provides many depictions of lone heroes and of apolitical groups of friends. Our news media generally overlook examples of deliberation and public work, but relentlessly cover competition among professional politicians. Despite their commitments to political rights and their heritage of experiments with participatory democracy, liberals and progressives are enamored of expertise, command and control regulation, and redistributive politics to the exclusion of active citizenship. Despite their resistance to technocratic elites and their heritage of experiments with decentralization, conservatives are enamored of markets and negative liberties to the exclusion of active citizenship. Our schools and colleges offer inadequate civic education, distributed unjustly to favor the most advantaged students, with an emphasis on factual knowledge instead of civic skills. Our scholars in the social sciences and humanities produce an inadequate supply of knowledge and wisdom relevant to active citizens, people who make moral and strategic judgments about how to improve the world. Our funders in both the state and philanthropic sectors provide negligible streams of money for participatory processes as compared to the funds available for concrete services. On the other hand, sooner or later there had to be another hand, right? We do live in a period of civic innovation when, against the odds, people are at work on demanding, sophisticated, locally effective forms of civic engagement. I estimate that 1 million Americans are involved in such work each year. Certainly they have many kindred spirits and collaborators in other countries. These people see the need for citizenship. They are building impressive practices and models. Their work remains scattered and local because it is contrary to the mainstream of national policy. Civic engagement cannot achieve sufficient scale and power without reforms in our most powerful institutions. The way to achieve such reforms is to organize the most active citizens into a self-conscious movement for civic renewal. We are not 1 million Americans. We are about 150 international people out of the 7 billion human beings on Earth. But we are deeply rooted in networks and communities that reach many, many more. That's why our gathering is so important. Of course, neither the root nor the trunk of a tree reflects its whole value. Its value is manifest in what it produces, its branches, its leaves, its fruits. So, having come together, we must now branch out and produce a new harvest of civic theory and civic practice. And to tell you how to do that, Nancy Thomas is going to explain the agenda.
Alrighty then. Hi, everybody. Oh, thank you. Hi, Nancy. That's great. All right, so I want you to know that Matt, Carol, Peter, and I met at 5 o'clock going, how are we going to start this thing? And they said, oh, Nancy, you can do it. And my job was to tell you about the agenda, because it's a little unusual, and to segue into our first couple of short takes. And then in the meantime, I was handed this, 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 and this. So, bear with me. All right, so the first thing somebody whispered in my ear was, review the agenda for real. So this is the agenda. In the interest of saving paper, you don't have it. We won't make you guess, though, because it's going to be on those boards in the back. And then I think that, are there going to be copies on tables too, Kathy? Yes. Okay. So tonight we've had dinner, and we're doing opening remarks, and then we're going to go to our short takes. Tomorrow is the more complicated day, and on tomorrow we've got a couple of different options for you. One of the formats that we always like for this conference is something we call learning exchanges. And learning exchanges are not your typical academic spaces where people present and then there's Q&A. These are supposed to be genuine opportunities for people who have ideas to share them. And so we're going to start with our learning exchanges tomorrow. And there are several, some that run concurrently and some that run more plenary, but not entirely plenary. But what we've decided, what we did this year is people came forward and said, I wouldn't mind playing a leadership role in helping you plan a couple of these learning exchanges. And so we are very, very grateful to a lot of people who are going to be sort of the conversation starters tomorrow. And they're going to kick things off, and then they'll open it up to everyone, and there will be opportunities to share. So we thank the organic leaders who came forward to help us with these particular learning exchanges. So tomorrow you are here at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, and then you're going to go up the hill to a place that's the Hillel Center. The Hillel Center is kind of small. If you just go up the hill, you'll see it. And I think there will be signs, but certainly people who are around a lot will know. And there are 3 rooms in Hillel. One room is on the top floor. The other ones are on the lower level. One room is large. The other 2 are sort of 40-ish to a room. And so on the boards, it'll say where each session is happening. So first of all, at 8:45, and we would appreciate it if you would be on time, so eat and then go up the hill around 8:25, 8:30, will be Created Equal Women in Public Life. And while I'm on the subject, I am looking for table facilitators, so if anybody is interested in helping out there, come see me when we're done tonight. Opposite that is the first session of the mini conference on Civic Studies. So the last 2 weeks, Peter and Carol have been running a Civic Studies Institute, and there are lots of people who just can't take 2 weeks of their time to do that. And so this is sort of a mini conference for anybody who would have liked to have been at that Civic Studies Institute and would like to hear what it's all about. And there are 4 sessions of those civic studies, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, one on prisons and crimes, one on theory and practice, and then a reflective capstone. They all run opposite the other sessions, which are on critical issues in democracy building. So in addition to the women's track, we've got Spectrum of Participation, and where we're going to look at different ways of participating and whether particular goals have a different process attached to them. Curriculum and pedagogy, civic measurement, both on campuses and off. Legalizing democracy. We've heard some really interesting things this afternoon in the National Coalition for Dialogue and Deliberations meeting about some of the challenges to convening dialogues in public life and the amazing challenges they're getting under Freedom of Information Acts and other open meeting laws. And then at 3 o'clock, there will be participatory budgeting and moving the needle, which is the second of the series on women. That one is going to talk about not only gender equity, but gender equity with an overlay of race and class. And then at 5 o'clock, there will be a reception back in this room, followed by another round of short takes, which I'll explain in a minute. On Saturday, everything will be in this room, and it's a pretty straightforward agenda, so I won't walk through the whole thing. We go until 4 o'clock on Saturday. Breakfast is from 8 to 9, and we're going to be starting promptly at 9. So 8:30 up the hill tomorrow, 9 o'clock here. So one of my little Post-its was that last year when we did this, people were a little bit concerned that they hadn't gotten to know everybody, that they were wondering who was in the room. And so I'm going to slowly ask questions about who's in the room, and you should look around, because if this is a group that interests you, they will raise their hands very, very high, which is what you are going to do. So, first of all, how many of you are from civic organizations? Okay. How many of you are from higher education? Ah, interesting. That's interesting, because in prior years we haven't had quite as many higher ed as we do now. How many of you are international? Hands up, high. Okay, so you have come a long way, and everybody should corner you and find out why you did that and how far it was. How many of you, now Peter mentioned the No Better Time conference in 2009, and then we merged some ideas, and we've been doing this particular Frontiers of Democracy conference for a few years. So how many of you were at No Better Time? Oh, that's so way cool. Okay, good. And how many of you were at prior Frontiers? Okay, great. And 2 more questions. How many of you are part of the Civic Studies Institute? And how many of you are alumni? And that includes the people who were there the last 2 weeks, because you are now alums. Okay, great. Great. All right, one last question. How many of you are other? Okay, I need a couple of others. Shout out another. Public sector work. All right. Good other. Private industry. Oh. Okay, no, that's great. That's great. More private industry. Okay, so we have a private industry here. Wave your hand. Put your hand up and wave. Okay, and a public sector. Super. A couple of public sectors. Look around. All right, who else had an other? Students. No kidding. Good. Good upgrade. All right. Students? Very nice. Okay. In fact, I'm going to make you do that again. Students. All right. So first of all, everybody should look around and see who the students are so they can get to know the students and welcome them to this movement. Okay? And second of all, the students. That's great. And the students should get together with each other and swap notes and then come talk to us periodically through this conference and let us know how it's going for you, because we're willing to work with you to make your experience better here. Okay, another housekeeping matter. There is a Twitter hashtag for this conference, and we would like you all to tweet, and it is DemFront. So it's # Dem Front. Let's see, what else? All right, so a couple of things about the other format here. So this conference, we have learning exchanges. We have time for you to get together and talk. We're going to have some open space on Saturday when you can identify issues that either emerged in this conference or that are on your minds and have not been covered. But one of the heart and soul aspects of this conference are called short takes. Short takes are 10 minutes. They are rehearsed. There's no question and answer afterwards. They are, what we do is we do them in clumps, and then on your tables are questions. They are these short little white sheets. Those questions you can use at your tables afterwards. We're going to have conversation. If you want to have the conversations around those questions, you can, but you don't have to. And every time we have a short take, there will be a different set of questions on your table. With that, let me just ask my co-organizers, did I forget anything?
You might mention that we would like people to switch tables so that the discussions after every clump of short takes will be among different groups of people.
Right. Okay. So mix it up. This is your opportunity to find each other, find new supporters of your work, get to know each other a little bit better. So we would like you to move around. Try not to sit with somebody you know or have seen for the last 5 years at these conferences all the time. To some extent, you should do that. All right. Anything else, co-organizers? All righty then. All right, so tonight we are going to kick this off in a total position of strength. I love it. Tonight we've got two very provocative speakers for you, and in the spirit of short takes, I am not going to introduce them with any great length. On our website are all of the bios. You can read about them yourselves. We have Kay Kawashima Ginsburg. She is my colleague and dear friend. I am pleased to have joined Circle recently because I get to work with Kay. And she is part of Circle, which is, I think, as Peter said, the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, which is part of Tisch College at Tufts University. She is our lead researcher. And then our other short taker is Debbie Walsh. Debbie Walsh I've gotten to know just in planning this women's track, and it has been the highlight of my preparing for this conference. I'm really pleased to have gotten to know her better. She is the director of the Center for American Women and Politics, which is part of the Eagleton Institute at Rutgers University. And with that, I will sit down.